I hit record. You can go get it from her. You want-
Okay, meeting to order. We'll start with JP for attendance.
Hey, I'm here. JP Martin here.
Mayor.
Tiffany Southard here.
Rainey Conger here.
Tommy Grant here.
Beth McFarland here.
Terry O'Connor here.
Brady Oxner.
Eric Fisher here.
We're all here. This is a work session. We're not going to do minutes. We're not going to approve minutes. So we'll go right into green space planning. The plan for today, we had 4 things that we kind of divvied up. We're going to do a tiny look at one of them that has a little bit of I think, progress on it. And then we're going to spend the bulk on disc golf, because I know JP and Eric have done a lot of work on that. So I had a brief conversation with our legal counsel about just him locating the Mary Yost language and seeing if if us trying to move forward in any fashion was even possible. And his short answer was yes. He's seen the language and he thinks that if we can find a Yost that would be willing to listen to us, there's definitely an avenue forward. And then Aaron has some additional information, I think.
Right, and Gene Holmes, our former legal counsel, and so he's with Village Oaks now. I happened to see him the other day, and we chatted, and then Jessica and I chatted today. Those two are going to get together and talk a little bit. Gene's obviously familiar with the Yost situation as well, and he said that, let me talk to Jesse, because I think there's a way that, there's a way that you can interpret it with case law and go ahead and, if our legal counsel is comfortable with it, they'll issue us a memo, and there'll be no need to counsel with the Yost folks themselves.
Okay.
But we'll see what the attorneys come up with.
Okay.
So that means hopefully, by our next meeting, we've got some avenue forward that we could actually start putting together that menu for council to say, here are some thoughts that we have on, the Quiet Brook Pond and ways that we could visually improve that in the long term, and also spend these funds that have been sitting.
Small footnotes that when we did talk about a council, I know there were some conversations that if that's not possible, perhaps we should examine other options to just, make something happen for it.
Okay,
If we can't do it all there. So that was part of the conversation I wanted to at least
Cool, appreciate that.
share with everyone.
And I have something to add. I mean, Terry and I met with Lisa Craddock. She said that she recalls, in the spirit of Mary Yost, that whole agreement with the perennials was, was for the group that does the gardening in like the cul-de-sacs and at the entries, was to use that to plant the perennials in that area. And then also there was a plan for other areas where the perennials were supposed to go. And whoever's taking care of the Mary Yost garden now, whoever that
Minerva Flora, I believe.
is, it Minerva Flora? I thought there was a lady that was like the head of it.
No idea.
I'll have to check back with her. She thought that there was like, if I talk to this person and talk to this person, then we, find out who it was, and they knew Mary Yost family members, and that it was really her wanting to see more plants around the Minerva, so, like trees, shrubs.
No, that's exactly what we're hoping to do. Right.
Right.
Okay. Cool. All right, so we'll have an avenue forward, hopefully, at the next meeting, and then we can start trying to figure out what we want to do with it. And with that, I'll turn it over to you two.
Okay. Well, we were planning some Frisbee golf in the green space. And I thought maybe we'll have Lewis give us a little presentation of the ideas.
Sure.
Give me a little background real quick.
Oh, yeah, sure.
No problem. So, Louis, you feel free to jump up here if you want to. So, the school district installed their 7 poles to this point, and those are up on the maneuver, they call it the maneuver disc golf course And so this gets posted on something called udisc.com, which is a registration map for the country. And so their stuff is all up there. I'll zoom and kind of show you where they've got their whole system. And so that's their course at the moment. Essentially, since they just did it, we have a good quote of what it would cost. It's in the they've spent in total, they've spent $19,923 on their 7 holes, which comes out to $2,846 per hole. So that gives you a good estimate of where to start as far as budgeting is concerned for council purposes. And I'll let Louis here get into it, but essentially that gives us the ability to start, some holes and some, what we call low-hanging fruit to start that process of putting some holes in each year. Obviously, for council's discretion, I would say if we can get about 10 grand a year dedicated, that gets you somewhere almost 4 holes. I would say reasonably you can do 2 to 3 holes a year because each hole is going to cost a little bit different. There's going to be more brush or more clearance, or somewhere there's going to be a little more work to do along these routes. But I think it's a reasonable number that we can, plan on 2 or 3 holes a year. Council will be so inclined, and then you can get a course up to, depending on how many we can get in. Essentially if you want to do 18 holes, we can guesstimate up to 11 holes. It doesn't have to be that exact number, but if we're aiming for a number, that would be roughly it. So we can probably get it done in roughly 4 years' time. I think it is reasonable. So,
Very cool. So learning about what land is usable and what land isn't, kind of the general idea of talking with JP and Eric about kind of the map of what's going on from now in the future. The idea of kind of starting it in a place that's not directly in the walkable areas, as an introduction to the neighborhood, to get people's feet wet and get them used to the idea of having this kind of sport back in the neighborhood, as just like the golf course was back in the day. But back in the day, how long ago was that?
Every day, leg game.
But anyway, a typical disc golf hole is anywhere between 150 to 450 feet. And that's a good and it's all about creative placement, using the obstacles in play to create challenges and direct people's throws. That way we're not having people throwing into other people's backyards, and of course there's concerns about, flying objects hitting people in the head. That is obviously part of the design of trying to navigate and get people to move a certain way with some challenge in a way that's also kind of fun. This area here in the walking path is kind of the biggest checklist for that kind of criteria. It's out of the way. We can, if there are walking paths, we can design a course to go with the flow of traffic as opposed to across the flow of traffic where possible, just to cut down on those fears. And of course, placement of pins. These are flexible things. I want to stress that placing a disc golf pin in a spot isn't necessarily the same as putting a building in. They're basically installed in the same way that fence posts are installed. So at the most, there's a cement base that will hold a coupling in which you can slide in a disc golf basket and secure it manually. And then most disc golf courses have alternate placement for that reason, especially if there's loose soil or water issues, kind of like how we have here with all the drainage. Just in case, one placement is, in the way of that kind of thing, or to make an alternate placement for a more challenging or a longer distance throw. We don't necessarily have to do that. That is just an option, and that's just something I want you to know that. I'm certain it can be, if we really needed to pick up a pin placement and move it, sure, why not? Because it's totally doable. It's not a building. It's, at the most, a fence post, essentially. These spaces, and this is this is where I need to learn more about what's going on with the maps and in the future from this group, is because my original plan kind of weasels this way all throughout here, but there's a couple of unknowns. There's a lot of good space out there that I have no idea if we can use or not, that are semi-buttressing against someone's backyards or backyards area. Like this, for example, this is an overpass. Right here, this tree line, which actually goes into a hill before sloping downward into the ravine that's here, and then the water. This tree line, ideally, when I'm looking at it, would make for an excellent hole, challenging disc golf hole. It's also kind of out of the way. But these are things that we need to, decide here maybe if these would be good to do or not.
Because which side are you talking? Are you talking putting it near the houses or the path side?
You're talking about
Or
making it
that
right in
straight down the middle.
Yeah,
straight down the
between-
middle? So where the creek is, right through there right now is totally flooded.
Yeah, I mean, ideally.
Yeah.
And that's why that specific area right there is actually on a hilltop, and there's quite a bit of tree line before you even reach the property lines of people's backyards. So that's a good amount of space, but again, that's an unspoken place that I don't know too much about if we're going to be able to use it or if there's interest in using it.
Louis, how out of the norm would it be to have someone show up at the elementary school, play 7 holes, and then walk a couple blocks to continue playing?
Depends on the person. Hardcore players, I would consider myself hardcore because I'll play this course and then I'll go to that course, kind of like having a marathon kind of day on a weekend or something like that. Because this is so short, it might entice players to move on over to this course to kind of complete the circuit. 9 holes is typical. It's just like golf. It's exactly like golf. So 9 holes, half the course, 18 holes, full.
We would have some wayfinding signage here, but it's easy, just easy to walk.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is it something that's just not done to be like, 7 of your holes are all right here, you can pretty much see them from the other hole, and then take a hike to finish out?
Yeah, generally speaking, it's a bummer because they're not right next door, connected. But this is not an extreme kind of distance that a player who is interested in like having spending some time on the course,
Yeah.
people will walk that. I would walk that.
We could potentially start a hole on this side, so we could kind of wrap it around and we can find a way to do it. And I would want to emphasize that once we can talk approximate hole locations, kind of get ideas, but until any money is budgeted, there's no purpose in doing any hardcore surveying. Thing we can actually get some contracting quotes. So it really comes down to our council members getting some amount of money appropriated, which we can do sooner than later since we're coming up on summer. These don't take too long to get installed. Like I said, we have good numbers on what that costs, and what the school's kind of doing for us already.
Other than this area, what is the other areas you
I
consider?
think, and I'll Louis jump in here, but I think in our discussion we were saying we can probably get a hole in here somewhere. This I think is a great location for a hole because you can kind of go down and back up, and you can use. We all walked some of this area. You can use some of this. We can kind of wrap them back. The trick is wrapping them back in here somehow. I think you could start a hole and kind of go around this side. I mean, again, it's all about the flow, and I leave that to Louis to kind of go into. You kind of want to do something circular, so if you were to look at this a bit larger scale, I think we can, I think there's a possibility to get a hole in here while also building kind of a walking trail at the same time, right? We've talked about that in the past. The trick is getting it down into this area. It's a little bit steep in this area, but it's doable, and there's definitely an area to make a pathway at the bottom of where the water flows. Now, again, any of these areas that are near some waterways, and we have a few of those, people aren't going to be out in the storm playing the frisbee golf unless they're really feeling it, right? And then, right.
It's just a little obstacle.
Right, and so you can have some unique pathways here, and we talked about putting one, then flowing one in between here, again, in between the trees, without taking down large trees, because I think part of what Louis was talking about is
Natural obstacles.
you want natural obstacles, and you want some challenges along the course. You know, we obviously ixnayed going over the ravine, which makes sense, because we're doing stuff with the amphitheater, no big deal. But there's a way then to have them walk down here, and we can start another hole that kind of wraps around here. You know, you've got a nice, easy hole that doesn't cross the path, and you've got this area to work with here. So then there's a way to wrap them back to the path. So I think there's a way to do this somehow, you know, and get a number of holes in the area.
To where you start in one spot and end in one spot-ish.
That's what you'd like to do.
Right.
Or at least get them to where, like you're
Close.
saying, close enough to where it's just a couple blocks walk, and it's not that big. So,
Sure. And I was just, oh, sorry. If you could zoom out a little bit more, as far as the greater scale of things, I think a part of that that makes this plan so great is that you have 7 over here as you're walking, you're utilizing this whole section of the neighborhood in bits and pieces, like maybe like we had 3 over here, 1 walking around, or how we want to go about it, you know, and zigzagging kind of, but that makes it the unique part of why it makes it kind of special, I think, than all the other places around here, is the fact that you are walking and you get to see the Mineral Park landscape and utilize it as well. And doing, you know, sections at a time, possibly over a 2-year, 3-year time period would be a great addition.
I mean, we're going to be doing, you know, in the coming couple of years, we're also going to be, a lot of this exterior to the grounds here is our land, and there's a lot of area to utilize where you can even get, as we talk about, we're going to have to clear a buffer zone around the lake. You know, that's just going to have to be done as best practice. But there's going to be room for a pathway. There's going to be other things here. So you could work one in this area too. I mean, some of this, because we're looking at a multi-year course development every year, you know,
Right.
you can see where we're at with various, you know, projects and how that plays into where we want to place a hole. So you don't have to. You can talk about any year. You can talk about a conceptual design overall, and then each year you can kind of finalize 2 or 3 holes, and we can go up and, you know, put them in.
So in an effort to start thinking about a menu, right, to present to council, would it make sense to propose putting in 2 holes in the first year around that Black Sycamore area? Because then that gives you a 9-hole course.
I understand.
But yeah.
If you put in 10 holes, then people are like, I just did 9 and here's an extra hole. If you put in 9 and it does not take off, you still have 9 holes. If you put in 10 and it doesn't take off, then you forever have a 10-hole unfinished course.
You can plan out whatever you want, any given year. I mean, so let's say the first year, because I think it really comes down to what they're going to cost, and we don't know that. And that's why I'm saying you can probably, it's easier to get a round number from a budgetary standpoint, put in there every year by council. You can go in and maybe you get 2 holes in. Maybe one year you have the opportunity to do 3, because if you do 9 this year, you may be able to get 3, and next year you're going to have 12 holes.
Yes, and right, my thought is that there will be folks on council who aren't crazy about this, and the thought of saying, here's a 4-year
Plan.
$10,000 or $40,000 plan to do this, you're gonna get folks who say, 4 years, $40,000, that's, I'm not into that. But to say, here's a $6,000 start to put in 2 holes to complete the last 2 holes of what is a 9-hole golf course, and then when you see that kids aren't getting hit in the head with discs, that people are coming peacefully and kindly from other municipalities and enjoying what Minerva Park has to offer, then next year we say, okay, let's put in another 3, or let's budget for 4. Let's see what we can do.
So what I'm hearing you say is do kind of phased proof of concepts.
Right, and phase
But
1
to
would
make
be to
work
actually
eligible.
complete 9 holes.
The only piece I wanted to add in before you go too far down the numbers is that area is actually a really big area for wildlife. And given how much the village loves our wildlife here, I think that those particular locations would also put people off of the plan. Just by virtue of the fact that's where the baby deer are every year. And that's the only really foliage they have left, and for the disc golf. You see where I'm going down this lane.
So I think that if you're doing a proof of concept, keep that in mind, is that would maybe put some people off.
Yeah, and then there would, I think, you know, as part of an educational effort, to show folks that we're already walking that area to see the wildlife. It doesn't really matter if we've got a disc in our hand or not, and the fact that there's a basket there doesn't mean that the baby deer are gonna see the basket surrounded by a couple trees and some houses in the distance and be like, nope, we're never going.
And those baskets come out in the winter.
It's not special.
Your deer are very well adapted.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, they walk down the path with
Yeah,
lights.
it's not a.
Okay, let me give you an
a
example.
NASCAR
If
track.
you took this table right here, and this was the landscape, for example, you're literally just putting in a hole, and then like you can just walk in with a basket
And I
and
get
take it
that
out.
concept, but
So-
right now there's no trail going through there, there's a creek.
So then what
going
you're
through.
saying is like all the thistle and the goldenrod and everything that's down there doesn't have to be mowed down?
No.
Just put that in and then you just go.
Walk in.
We would have a small path for people to walk through, so
And-
so the ticks wouldn't walk
So-
over their legs.
So then, I guess I want to back up and look at, so there were, at one point in time, there was a lot of people who wanted pickleball.
Right.
So now we're saying that this is, more people want this than pickleball? Is that what we're saying?
We're not saying
Have we
that.
done any kind of survey?
We did, I mean, we last year we walked pickleball and we talked, we did kind of the same exercise that we're going through now.
Yeah.
And from what I recall, what we learned was pickleball, while it's new and growing, is new and growing. The cost of putting in an okay pickleball court is at the high end of what a village like us could afford. The cost of putting in a really good pickleball court is prohibitive. And good pickleball players only want to play on a good pickleball court.
Was that $40,000?
It was expensive, it also required a significant, I think part of our problem is we looked at different places where we can dedicate, we looked around the pool. There's also the consideration, we had to look at it strongly, and Mayor, feel free to jump in, but there's a bong, 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 all day. And that's a concern when we put it right next to behind someone's house, right? And so we're, those were the things that went back and forth from a discussion, internally and with the council members. So, this is, it's not that pickleball's out, it's just that, this is a low hanging fruit that also is an homage back to the golf course itself, and it's been discussed at the beginning. So we're jumping on essentially an affordable theme. And my feeling is, Tommy and JP, and I wish Kathy said that, but my feeling is, the majority of council doesn't seem to be opposed to spending a little bit of money on the golf course, with that, what you said or said.
I guess I'm thinking, we went down and walked around down there. We can't even take care of the grounds that we have. The bushes were torn out because they can't be taken care of. And I'm thinking, okay, so now we're going to spend $10,000 a year for new poles, and then we got to spend more to take care of them. And it's like, really, is that a cost-effective proposition?
I would say it's not something for the,
Because it's not bringing in any money.
I would say it's not something to too much worry about at this level. I would say something you can talk to council members directly about if that's your concern. I think this is, what we're doing is giving something up the chain, right, Brady? And
Yeah,
council make a decision on how that's.
We're presenting a menu, and if we decide that, because we have already decided there are things we don't want on the menu, and the goal of this was to, we asked council, we said, here are 5 things, would you like us to learn more? And they said on 4 of them, yes. So if we learn more on any one of those 4 and decide that we don't think it's worth moving forward, then we won't.
Have we examined the ongoing cost or what that might entail in
It's
terms
pretty
of
minimal,
maintenance?
just a mowing.
Very, yeah.
Mowing would be the
Do we
greatest.
currently have the capability to do
Oh, yeah.
that?
I don't think
And
that's.
staffing?
Yeah.
So, as far as that goes, I have not had issues with, or heard that there's issues with any kind of mowing, or we're not really we ripped out a lot of plants that were dying or dead. We spend about $17,000-$18,000 to maintain just the flower beds and mulching and things like that. And some of the ones, it might put in an excessive amount. And for some people, they thought that maybe there was enough flower beds and things like that. So some of them we have let grow back in. The trees are still there. All of that is still there, but there can be a lot of maintenance when it comes to beds and all of that. So I don't know exactly what they're referring to, but I'm not aware that we aren't able to maintain the green space. So as far as,
Because this would entail more mowing.
correct.
Which I know sometimes you talk about that, yeah.
So we currently
And some
have,
years topography to mow, too.
we have 4 people, yeah, I mean,
I mean,
at the given time, we have 4 seasonal, or we have a total of 4 people that will be doing mulching and things like that. All of them came back this year. That was here last year. The only issue that we had was 2 years ago. We only had 1 seasonal person. This year, we have a total of 4 people that will be doing mowing and all of that. They've already started. So I don't see that as being an issue. And again, it's more of a balance. How much money do you want to spend on landscape? How much money do you want to spend on maintenance of a pickleball court versus this? You're always going to hear that with me when it comes to that, because there is an aspect of maintaining something. I mean, one of the things that we talked about with the new development was all the wood from all of the fencing and things like that go around. I mean, there is a lot of maintaining of green space in certain areas, but I see that as being, the biggest issue I see with this, if it's even an issue, is people upset that people are in their backyards. They're not in their backyards, I understand that, but in the mindset of people, they're out enjoying their, kids in their little swimming pool and their this and that. And there's more people walking through, just kind of doing this or that. That's what I see more than the concern of, can we maintain the grass around it?
You're talking about what, a foot wide, like
Yeah.
a push mower?
And I'm not, that's,
It would essentially be a mower width, which is
Yeah.
a 3 to 4,
Yeah.
3 foot
At
definition
most,
thing.
yeah.
It's not gonna be huge. I think too, as you go around, it's a course design. We're gonna obviously try to mimic the existing trail system, and as we discussed, put things within forested areas, which you're not gonna see people.
Right.
And the nice thing is, the good news is, it's much harder, in my experience, to put a path in between homes where one didn't already exist. In this
Right.
particular case, you fortunately already have pathways set down, and so people know that people walk there, people see them. So if we mirror those things, it'll be a little easier.
How long does a hole, how long does a cage last? I mean, they're just-
Well, they're all constructed, whether,
Probably a light galvanized steel.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much
Like forever.
just steel cages, right?
Wouldn't you just-
If you go out to the oldest courses in Columbus, they may have replaced them recently, like within the past 10 years. And disc golf, disc golf really started in like 74, so.
I just want to say,
They last
not that
long.
I'm against pickleball, there's a zero history in Minerva Park for pickleball. This neighborhood was, again, a big giant golf course, so.
Oh, side note, the church just outside the neighborhood on 3 has actually
Pickleball.
opened
Oh,
pickleball.
nice.
they have a sign right out
They have a
front.
sign out front.
That's good.
It's like right where we vote.
Yeah.
Is it that one, or is it right next door? Like right, I feel like it's the one where we go to vote.
There's only one church over there. I used to live right at the first
Yeah.
house, so like.
Isn't- I think it's that one, because they have, and I believe it's free to, there's a big sign,
Yeah.
like right out in front of there, I saw that.
That's kind of cool.
Is there
We're trying to-
any other places locally that have done something in their communities like
Yes.
this?
Yes. Orange Township has their community building. They have a dedicated park that's surrounded by neighborhoods, but inside the park they have.
Do you know what neighborhood that is? Do you actually know? I was trying to think of it because somebody just told me that.
There's a second one,
Look it up on.
that's on the Orange Township
It's on their site?
building, yeah.
Okay.
That's on that
Let's
side.
look.
But then another new development, actually up in Polaris, has a dedicated 9-hole in their neighborhood.
In their neighborhoods? Okay. So maybe that's something to kind of look at a little bit in comparison to see what issues. And if, like, I know some of them have cement tee-offs.
Mhm.
So you're talking things movable. So would we probably not start with a cement tee in
Yeah, I
order
would.
to keep the flexibility
Sure,
of
yes.
moving things?
Yes, and, there are many ways to build a potential tee pad. Cement is just obviously stable and you don't want people to be slipping off of it, so, cement is, usually the way to go. I've seen, turf, artificial turf, and even, professional courses on the professional tour. Not everybody has cement pavements here and there, but, a lot of people have decking, a lot of people have, AstroTurf, very fine pebble. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but it can be done.
It is called Orange Township Hall Park.
HAL.
The Hall of Aces.
When Lewis and I were talking, one of the best things was that not only using the natural landscape, but using natural items like maybe rocks from around the park we can grab as like, make like a little pad. That way we're not spending excess money, anything's just coming from the natural land. And as far as, mowing, literally just a pathway that curves around, that people could walk, like you won't have ticks. Nothing invasive, that's the whole point of having this, is just use a natural landscape.
We built pads out of sludge from the North Lake.
I'm sorry?
We built pads out of the sludge from the North Lake.
There we go, we could do that.
Is that an option?
I love that.
But as you see the basket right there, that's probably the most invasive thing out there, is just that itself. And again, that can be removed in the wintertime, be stored away.
Yeah, if there's any,
It's just, yeah.
if there's any dead trees that need to be taken out anyway, use it for the
Yeah.
course, use it for barriers, use it for mulching, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not, disc golf is like the mountain biking of bikes, this is not the Tour de France. We don't need to be on like perfectly paved roads where it's just pristine. It's meant to be off-road, It's the mountain biking of golf.
Can you tell us a little bit about the culture and the lifestyle of frisbee golfing a little bit? Like how,
The culture of people, it's, like I said, it's like the mountain biking of golf. People are a lot more laid back, a lot more relaxed. People aren't getting dressed,
They're like cleaning up after
dressed up
themselves,
in
cleaning
their
up.
golf nines to come, spend time. Obviously you don't have golf carts, because, the point is to get out there. It's essentially a sport while hiking.
that's beautiful, by the way. That would
That's the
that'd be
Orange
a
Township
wonderful,
one.
yeah, that'd be a wonderful addition to Mineral Park.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, you can see it. It would mirror what we've got out there to some degree.
I'd like to move forward, present this to council, and at least try to get started this year if possible.
I mean, a couple of things that I personally would like to see happen in conjunction with that is, if this is something that you want to do, like having a plan for either having some disc rental or borrowing, so people could maybe come to the community building and get 1 out of 5 bags of discs that they might not have. So you can just go, so I don't have to, find a disc or play with a regular world frisbee. So you're teaching people to do it right. But then the other thing is having events that are just teaching people about it. And I don't think that we need to have 18 holes to do that. I think 9 holes is great, and I like to think of it like the Quick 7 over at River France, and it's very open, right? It's not very difficult, and you can allow people to experience it. And I mean, my kid was the one who probably loved to throw frisbees, discs. Sorry.
Yeah. They're frisbees.
But
They're frisbees.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it too. It's like a non-high impact type of way to get outside and enjoy
So,
the outside.
well, I was gonna say, so what from here would be next steps as far as information that we would need to gather? You've got some numbers, you've got sort of a,
Essentially, you can get your council vote here, we have several who come here, to make the request, and we can put on an appropriation, onto the agenda, and then the council would vote on it and appropriate it, and then we can come back to P&Z and then plan out where you want your 2 holes, or whatever amount you want, and go from there, and then we get the contractor scheduled to put them in per your specifications.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not too difficult.
Yeah, my goal would be to put something together in writing that would accompany probably Tommy's presentation to council to say, this is item number 1 on P&Z's, comprehensive green space plan. It will be page 11 someday of this whole thing we're putting together, whether you guys decide to move on it or not, but here's what we've learned. And so that when council asks questions, it's not, we'll have to get back to you, or why don't we all sit here and talk about this for a while? It's, here's the answer. We've looked into it, we know the answer. This is why we're asking these questions now, so that we all know these things. So that we can say, okay, this is what we're trying to sell you right now. We can answer every question you have, and if it were totally up to us, this is how we would do it. But you guys are in charge. So, I think, I don't think we can go too far in the weeds at the same time. We don't want to get to a point where we're so sold on our own idea that we get mad if council decides to move something by 6 feet.
Well, if we are just looking to add 2 holes this year, I don't want to say today would be a great day to go over there and look because it's flooded, but today would be a great day to go over there and look to see where you would put 2 holes, because again, you don't want it to be, not be able to be mowed, you don't want it to be, I mean, if it's completely flooded now, it's gonna be completely flooded half the year. I mean,
Well, no.
I don't wanna say it that way, but,
I think you.
oh, we've just had a lot of rain, so I'm being negative right now.
But, you know,
I've had 3 calls today.
there are things you don't do when it's raining, and there are things you don't do when it's muddy.
Right.
Correct.
So my guess would be in the same way that I wake up in the morning and.
But I would
say,
also
"I'm
say,
today,"
if it's a
I would say,
known
"Can I go
area
this
to flood, let's skip it, and let's find 2 good locations that would dry out quicker. That's where I'm going with that.
So that leads to my, I know that there was a discussion that there are some prominent folks in the disc golf community who would be interested in being involved in this somehow. I mean, are there, and not that I don't think that you are perfectly capable, but are there more heads to get together around actual design and figuring out whole layout?
Yes, yes.
And would that be done at a cost or for free?
Pretty much, that would be a volunteer basis. I have been in touch with Brad Schick, who's a local professional. He actually plays the professional tour, but he lives in the Larry's area. I've been coaching with him. I told him about the project probably last year. So he's known about it for quite some time. He said, if this gets started, I can volunteer time and come help you guys out.
I mean, so if professional design, you know, as far as a playability is free, then we're just looking at the cost of installation. It sounds like maintenance is incredibly minimal. So as far as, you know, a long-term investment for village recreation, this seems like something that again, knowing that it's completely up to council, but something to elevate up to them to say, we've done the legwork and we think that this would be a decent investment for the long term.
Side note, there are other local clubs in the Columbus area and around. Because it's so, people will travel for it, you know. Hoover Dam, it has the Brett Hamrick Memorial Course. That is a silver level professional tour course. So professionals come to Columbus anyway to play that course. And we would be the second course down from it. That's neat. That's a feature and a benefit. We could also weasel our way into the local clubs and have them come be a part of what we're doing here. Whether that's sponsoring a new club, sponsoring running a tournament here. I also would want to and encourage teaching, because I like playing and I want to get other people involved in it. So one of the things, whether we do this or not, when the 7 holes goes up in the elementary school or the middle school, I was planning on doing, just on my own time, just doing volunteer, come out coaching.
Are they up? I thought they're up.
They're up right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're up.
And which areas,
That's what I showed.
have you talked to the school about hours of operation?
Yeah, they don't want people playing during school hours, so it's restricted during those time periods, but weekends, after school, all of them.
Okay.
And that's standard also, because a lot of the local disc golf courses are also on church property. So, in non-operational times,
Yeah, they
always
It
open.
was posted on there, I think, so it's got restricted hours. It says course is closed during school days, winter session, and during hours of operation,
So, I mean, being that we've got 2.5 council members here, how do you guys want to move forward? I mean, we will vote on whether or not to elevate this to council. And then if we do so, do you want to just talk about it with them?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, like, say, have some disc thing thought about, because I think that's kind of integral to, you know, you build a baseball diamond and then kids have new balls and bats and gloves to play ball. It's like, it's just a field. It's just, you know.
It's a fence to climb, is what
I
it
think
is.
it'd be really cool to
I don't know,
have.
that's kind of my
Yes,
thing,
yes,
it's like just helping I don't know how long those things last, I don't know how much they cost, I don't know if it's like a
They have,
Baskets or the discs?
discs.
you can go get them at like, Play It Again Sports and stuff too, can't you?
Yeah,
Thought you
Play It
could.
Again Sports has a good selection of used,
Yeah.
but that's like a premium classic. This is like a basic.
You can see they come in different.
Well, I mean, it's just like golf, so there's putters, mid-ranges, drivers, etc. So.
Is an average price for 18 disc golf discs $52? 9-piece, $39.97.
See, I like to see the Village of Minerva Park logo on it.
I'm sure they go up pretty high as well.
Honestly.
You can get optional, lower.
But the village could, if we, 64 for $94?
You can get a bunch of lower end stuff that's just for people to go out and throw.
I like JP's idea, get ones with
Okay.
the village logo
So
printed
there's
on
more
them,
than
so
just-
it feels them.
That's a great idea.
That's actually really
Then
good.
you charge $5 to rent them.
So,
And you
okay,
can possibly get it back.
Exactly.
I have a plan to make this free, basically. In the sense that,
Right.
if we, this is an investment, if we put this up, we can not only, if we're, this is status, not, you know what I mean? Like, the second, if we had one of the best courses out here, if we just invested the time and the money, I'm talking rent these out, have t-shirts, I was at Minerva Park, whatever, swag, minervapark.org, whatever, you know what I mean? We could literally turn that around. You'd be a great teacher, we could just,
This
teach
is
classes
probably
and stuff
something
like
there's
that.
grants for.
Takes
this is
money to make money, that's what I'm
Probably
saying.
something we could get grants for,
Well, I think. so.
for the discs and stuff.
And I like to do this sooner than later because Minerva France has theirs going. If we can get council approved to start on it this year,
What I'm trying to figure out.
it would behoove us, I believe, to get our name out there as quick as we can,
So,
in that respect.
So here's where we are logistically. This is a work session and not a meeting. So we have to set a precedent here on how we elevate things to council. Do we need to have a vote on it? If so, we'll need to schedule an actual P&Z meeting to vote to elevate this to council. Or if we all agree that what comes out of a work session can be elevated by our liaison as a result of the work session,
Yeah.
then it could go to the next council meeting. And I'm going to be impartial because I love the process and I know that it also takes forever. So I'm gonna shut up and let you guys figure it out.
So council members, obviously being on council, can easily ask us for an appropriation, can easily bring things up and put, talk about it on the agenda.
Sure.
They're right, and they have that, so I think you don't have to vote on anything, you can simply be liaison and other council members to talk about it at council.
Yeah, the question is, is this an official recommendation of planning and zoning, or is this something we discussed? And like I said, I don't.
You did already make the recommendation, and this was one of the things you were putting in front of
To
council.
look into. We asked if they wanted more information, they said yes. So I guess if we present them with more information, then that's presenting them with more information.
And then seeing what more they want back from us.
I think having it in an organized manner would help. So I don't know if that's like a presentation where you show pictures of the other golf courses and what they look like to help people wrap their heads around it.
We can,
But I think
staff
that
are
would-
more than happy to put something together.
I think that would help people who aren't familiar with.
And Blended Woods is right up the street, so if you want to do a field trip.
It's probably flooded.
We can use that as an example.
Right?
Or Minerva France is just down the
We got
street.
7 holes.
Oh.
We could just use our own.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, I had, so the question about, last time we talked about the Quiet Brook Pond and the Marios Garden and making that like the Marios Quiet Brook Pond. So what were the thoughts on the improvements on that, like what did council say about that? Or what, because I'm hearing now, we're doing frisbee golf on that pond, or in that area of the pond. So, and if frisbee golf wants mowed grass pathways versus more naturalized quiet brook pond, are those in conflict or potentially could be in conflict? I guess I'm not saying they are. Potentially could be in conflict.
I think they absolutely potentially could be in conflict.
But that would just determine what you would plant there and what you would actually do there.
Which is all things to figure out.
Because we went down and looked at Quiet Brook Pond, and I mean, it's you could walk around it, you could put in perennial or pollinator pathway around the pond and put in spots of color around there, and more trees, but it sounded like, no, you don't want more trees, because you want frisbee golf.
Well, I mean,
Like, we're talking native trees like dogwoods, red bud, things like that are
So,
more native.
Right.
what I'm hearing you say is, as far as being ready to move forward with this presentation, the other ones would overlap and perhaps be competing, and maybe should all be fleshed out before presenting any one?
I don't think so.
Or is that what you're hearing, or Chang, or am I hearing wrong?
well,
Well, I'm saying, if you want to do frisbee golf around the pond, then why invest time and money in
So here's-
planning it?
and I agree with you. So a thought would be if we are going to, if, you know, what we discussed was a phased project. If part of your discussion to the council members who will be discussing this with council would be, we are still working and we've started working and we're making progress on something around Quiet Brook Pond. If you guys would like to move forward in the near future with disc golf, please don't plan anything at Quiet Brook Pond in phase 1 so that we can have all of that figured out. We'll leave that canvas blank for at least the next year. And that will definitely give us time to figure out what's going on there. And then, you know, decisions will have to be made that we can hopefully have input on. But I think your point is good, that we don't.
have benches around Quiet Brook Pond, and people
Right.
there to go and sit around, and enjoy the flowers and birds and, wildlife, then you put a frisbee golf course around
Yeah.
there, those two things don't.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in agreement.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the reason why I think 2 holes in phase 1 makes the most sense. Because it's dipping a toe in the right way. And once you get past the folks who walk around Black Sycamore Pond, there's not a whole lot of other traffic that goes on down in there.
And maybe 9 holes is the money. Maybe
And-
that's
and right.
where we say, hey, listen, it's not as interesting, or it causes people to get upset, and we go, no, it's 9 holes. It's still a great homage. We still have opportunity. It shows off the village a little bit. I mean, it can be those things.
Yeah, if discussion to get further in the village comes out and the villagers come out with their pitchforks and say, not in my backyard, then we have 9 holes, and that's enough for an outing. So it's kind of, hoping for the best and planning for the worst, but still getting something done and saying, we have a good idea for this area too, so let's not rush to overlap and stuff. Does that make folks comfortable? Is that reasonable?
Yeah. I mean, if you put in 2 holes and it's just swamped, people are using it all the time, then, then.
Yeah, then let's go gangbusters. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens, because it sounds.
Oh, I am too. I'm interested to see if the things are still standing 48 hours later with the kids that we have.
They're not hard to do some of those. We can get some hard.
Just-
Yeah, those things are.
I mean, I understand, but so far we haven't done anything that the kids haven't tried to destroy, including the poop boxes for the dogs, we built benches, they destroyed every single one of them. So I too agree, let's starting with 2, and let's just see if we have vandalism and all that kind of stuff with it, and that will determine
The shelter's still
everybody, knock on wood,
Grease poles so they can climb them. And just
right?
put something in the tracks.
And nobody thought that the dog poop things would be a problem, but everybody thought that the shelter was gonna be.
I know, but I cannot put bags in those things for nothing. I mean, you put bags in there and the kid, and maybe it's an adult. I should not blame the children because it could be an adult, I'm just saying. But they pull them until they're gone.
That's a fun game.
I know it is. I know it is.
We were all high school kids once, we know this.
We know who did it. Yeah, at least it's not toilet. Now they use paint, so.
So are we comfortable with basically entrusting Tommy as our liaison.
Yes.
What we do last.
Ooh,
To help facilitate a discussion at council, where Eric will provide a refined version of this, and you can kind of distill with help the discussion that we had and our basic proposal of a phased plan that, based on the results of year one, could result in a 4-year plan to put an 18-hole course. But that the first stage would be 2 holes, staying away from Quiet Brook Pond, but being near Black Sycamore to help some continuity with the existing 7 holes. And then again, council can say, man, you guys nailed it, let's do it. Or they can say, we have completely different ideas in one way or another. And our only statutory requirement is that in this part is to
do we have the
Make
budget,
plans.
do we have the budget for the 2, because that's gonna be the first
We
thing
could
that,
say 7 million.
Yeah, it said about 20 grand a hole, so if you did a 6 to 7, with padding, if you did a 7 grand.
Just make sure we're covered. We get 2 holes, we under, great.
Does anybody have any general questions about like how the sport is played or anything else about the sport?
I think pretty much all over here he walked us through, so.
I watch him at Hoover all the time, it's entertaining, so.
My father-in-law's exit to his neighborhood in Indiana has 2 courses that pass each other, and they're right there, and so there's always
Oh, yeah.
always folks playing, and it always, I mean.
Oh, Hoover's busy, I mean, there's no
It's
doubt.
not loud, there's no shouting, there's no sound of the ball whatsoever, just every once in a while you hear a little change link, yeah.
Yeah,
Unless somebody, does a hole in the line.
That takes it work.
I just know from my plan was always like we played some of the state parks, and I'm always the one having to go in the weeds to purify my family's disc.
That's the other thing, get into resell, right? Everybody who loses a disc, we send Chipper out there to find them all.
Oh, yeah.
The people who lost it 3 times.
but I think, I love the idea of doing like the logo or something like that on there, I think that would be awesome. Jason will be all on board with that, I guarantee you.
And like, he's got his phone number on here, so if you find it, you can call him.
Yeah, and generally speaking, the official rules for the professional tour is if you have a disc, you have to put your name and your professional ID on it, just in case things get lost. The general
That's awesome.
consensus in the community is call first, and if you cannot return the disc at all, if you've done everything you can, then maybe give it away or consider keeping it. That's the general
We can have like a
ethos.
bin out there that,
We should have sponsored holes.
well, I think that was actually, I do think that was something that, I feel like we already discussed that a little bit, if we got to do more. Did we not talk about that? I feel like somebody told me, yeah, sponsored holes. Maybe we talked about it because of Westerville, but yeah, that's not a crazy idea.
And all those things are doable. Team jerseys, custom printed discs and everything, because the explosion of the companies have made it more accessible these days, so that is certainly doable.
Minerva Park Howlers is what I prefer for the
Absolutely.
Is there anything else?
Do we
we'll
have anything,
figure out- what's on
do we
that?
have anything on bat boxes at this point,
We
or?
don't have anything on bat
Okay,
boxes,
nope.
and Eric's putting together a presentation. So next meeting, we'll talk bat boxes and walking trail plan.
Okay,
We didn't want to,
Here's your one.
totally fine.
yes,
I'm doing it.
yes. The thought was, I was hoping to have more on
See you trying to
Thursday,
get out
I
the
didn't.
back boxes.
But yeah, the thought was to actually give full discussion of something to see if we can move forward.
I might call in sick on the bat box day.
I'm telling you, I've got one, it's still not mounted, but I've got one in my
Just saying.
backyard for you to see. You look at it. and
I
go,
feel like I have a runny nose coming
We
on.
need to make a field.
A month from now.
trip, by the way.
It's already.
I'm
I'll
absolutely
read the next
teasing.
meeting.
I'm totally
It's not-
teasing.
It probably will be on by next meeting.
Quiet Brook is on ones we know about, there it goes.
Yeah, the hope is, there is money to do what we want to do over there. It's just making sure that we can spend the money to do that. And then as soon as we can get that figured out, you know, how much money we can spend, then it will be, I think, fun for us to kind of imagine that space. I'm personally intending to agree with you to try and keep the disc golf out of there if possible, and have that be, when you're walking the dog, that's a place you always stop and you sit and you reflect and enjoy. It's just a perfect little bowl looking at the water, and if we can get it all so that it looks as nice as it could.
I know we had some trouble with some wood benches. I did see some, and I'm totally just bringing this up, stream of consciousness, but like concrete, somebody sells concrete molds where you can just build basically the two outsides and then strap boards to it. And I'm thinking, if you only got to replace boards, that's way better than having to replace the whole thing.
Yeah.
And these things are heavy because they're concrete water.
So like the sides are concrete, you put like the slats,
Yeah,
two by
I was
six.
like,
or
yeah,
whatever.
kids, come on, throw this bad boy, let's go.
You're not picking it, yeah.
I was gonna say shape wood, composite wood,
Yeah.
decking instead of wood.
Well, if they don't.
So that
damage
sounds more
it-
expensive, if
Yeah.
they're just gonna keep breaking it.
Yeah, if it's long lasting, for long lasting, you're absolutely right.
Well, no, that was just
Long
something I
lasting,
thought
this kids
about,
will break
like,
it.
it's like a jig, I mean, you just pour concrete into it, maybe it.
You just gotta have the right design, yes.
Come out smooth, and it's like, I mean, that's almost as good as bolting to the ground. Anyway, that's just something I thought about real quick. What else? I don't know if this is more council-esque or P&Z-esque, but what about the open voting position?
We were actually getting ready to talk about that. I don't know if we're done, because we don't have a date yet for,
We don't have a date for the next meeting.
okay.
we're gonna talk
So those were
about
the
it.
two things. I'm counting people, and I'm just making sure I'm like on the right page, wrong page, whatever. You wanted to step down, but I don't know if you still really do. So before we do, okay, how many voting, non-voting do,
I think we're short.
I thought we were short too, but I'm counting people, and I don't know that we are.
Okay, so why don't we just count aloud while we're here, so we have.
That's what I was doing in my head.
you,
1,
We
2,
have-
3,
we have
4, 5.
We have 5 voting members.
And how many non? I thought it was 2.
3.
That's where I'm wrong, okay.
Right, so so right now we've got voting, who's voting?
Everybody's-
We're all voting.
Everybody seated is voting.
All right, so all the seats.
And they are not
I say
voting.
it now.
So
Everybody
They're
get
not.
in the low spots.
I'm seated.
The people in the important seats are not voting.
So then what I've got here.
But Rainey's a non.
Rainey and Rainey, what's that?
Rainey is a non.
Well, then that's, I mean, you can put, I mean, you've got another one here, so I don't.
Right, I was getting ready to appoint 2, but if I'm not sure where we're
He's not
at.
allowed to go, he stays.
That's what I'm saying. So then we only have 1 open seat right now. That's what I'm trying to determine. Do we have, no, we don't. There's
As of-
1,
as of
2,
this-
3.
Okay, well,
Mayor,
I said Rainey was not.
at this minute, you have 1 open
Correct.
non-voting seat.
That's what I'm saying.
If JP were to step
Oh,
down, you would
okay.
gain an additional non-voting.
Correct.
So we just have one.
And that's, exactly. So I was counting in my, as we were all sitting
So
here,
these two are the non-voters, right?
they are the non-voters. So I'm
Alright,
verifying that he's staying or he's going, because that determines if I appoint 1 or 2 people. We originally thought there were 2 people. I advertised it as 2 people, but that can change.
I'm willing to
And
stay for the village. I'm willing to stay.
so I just need to determine before I go appoint 2 people that I really need 2 people, because then we're gonna come in here and they can have my seat.
How about we appoint one, I'll stay.
You are the statutory person.
I actually enjoy
You're the
it.
only one who cannot be swapped.
I actually enjoy it, so no.
In lieu of the village, I think I should stay.
Okay, that's,
Maybe appoint one
again,
person.
so the plan is, it's going on the agenda for, it's supposed to be on the Thursday meeting, not tomorrow, but next Thursday.
Okay. Cool.
And then meeting, date and time.
I'm looking at May 15th for the next meeting, unless there's a reason not to. It's a 5 Wednesday month. So we could,
So do not do the 22nd.
Right, that's
the last
last
day
day
of
of school. I don't wanna do.
Yeah, I already have the council meetings on Thursday, the 23rd, I think, 1, 2, yeah, we already have council meeting.
15th 's good.
The 15th is not, okay, does are we 100% for sure MPCA is the 8th? I just gotta verify the
Yes.
room, okay, then yes,
It's helpful now that my wife is on it.
yes. So as long as they're the 8th, yeah, that is perfect. So then the 15th, I mean, the room is available then the 15th or the 22nd.
Yeah, 'cause we got council the 2nd, 9th, and the 23rd.
Correct.
So let's do the 15th, that'll space things out, make things easy.
Yes.
And on the 15th, We will definitely have a presentation on walking trails
Mm-hmm.
in the hopes that we can all develop a comprehensive walking trail plan, which is something that we would hand to council and say, put this in your pockets, so that the moment there's funding available, you can say, oh, we've had this plan for ages, and here's how we should spend the money.
Hopefully there will be in the future.
Right.
We,
And then we will probably have a bad house discussion as well at that meeting.
okay,
Excellent.
can't wait. I will be here with bells and whistles.
Well, we bringing pets in to pet them, right?
Yes, we are. And I will be at the front door. I will not.
I was thinking about talking to the Ohio Wildlife Center, see if I can make that happen, but then the mayor said that she would kill somebody.
Yeah, I might have actually said that on recorder with police downstairs. I don't even care.
Okay, May 15th will be our next meeting. Is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss?
The only other thing that I wanted to bring up,
Tommy.
Sure.
You're that kid in class that's like,
well, because it does follow up with.
We're teasing.
The conversation of, when I was at the Planning and Zoning Commission on the website, it's run amok.
The planning zoning commission on the website?
The commission members, I mean, I almost went twice, and I'm like, I don't know who wants to update, let somebody.
I will let them know tomorrow, because there's actually an issue, and it's a known issue, and I don't know if maybe that's what it is. All of the members of council are listed in certain places, but certain places, you and Kathy are still not listed, and we cannot get it, we'll get it figured out why it has something to do with them on the back end, not us.
Barb is slowly working through some issues. She's
Yeah, it's.
I mean, I've noticed many issues.
They did a merge of some sort. It was great, and then they did something, and so Barb has been working with them on the back end. Like, they redid all of our legislation, like it would have like the legislation number, the date, the description, and then the description disappeared.
Right.
And it was just like, it was just a complete, so they did fix all of that. So Barb has been actively working, so when you find something like that, and this, she doesn't get annoyed or anything, so please, email her and just say, this is, can you look at this? So you can email her, because she's the only one that knows how to do it. I don't know how to do it.
I didn't know what the right answers were to the commission members, and you guys are figuring that out.
Like, I'll Google it, but it's not.
Yeah, so we will fix it.
Except for the fact that the documents are from 2020.
Yeah, that too, but I'm listed on there twice as a non-voting member.
And the village council liaison, so they just got about.
But a double non-voting equals a voting.
Yeah, 2 negatives.
No, it's a non-voting member and a liaison, 2 different roles.
I'll take the
Whatever
vote.
No, it's just a heads up, that's all I want to know.
Yeah, we'll look at it tomorrow and see what we need to adjust.
Motion to close.
Anybody have anything else? All right, we're adjourned.